Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this Tuesday morning. Hopefully, you are all in the right place because today we're going to be discussing our cloud migration assessment. Obviously, how you can move to cloud with Splunk and Somerford, how our kind of professional services and guidance can help you, and all of the value consulting that we can offer you as well. If we have never met before, it's wonderful to meet you, albeit virtually. My name's Grace Mayer. I head up our pre-sales and our support teams over here at Somerford. And I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Neil. If you want to do a quick intro.
Yeah, hi, Neil Harrison. I head up the business value consulting at Somerford. So basically just helping people get the most value they can from Splunk and the software products.
Awesome. So just to run you through a quick agenda, we're going to be discussing why you might want to use Somerford for your cloud migration. What actually is Splunk Cloud as a SaaS product, because some of you may not be aware currently. We're going to be going through the cloud migration assessment services that we're able to offer, and also discuss a little bit of a contentious point, which is just the considerations for moving to cloud. And I normally call this, your upsides versus any downsides that there might be. We'll also discuss the added value and also the business value from moving to Splunk Cloud, the different transaction methods that you can use with us, and also give any time for questions. So if you do have any, please feel free to use either the chat window in the right-hand side of your screen or the questions box. So why would you use Somerford for your cloud migration? Well, first of all, we do offer our migration assessment at completely no cost. And we create a tailored report for you from that with a cloud migration roadmap to show you where things that you're currently doing may need to change before you move. And then also, touch points of where you can see value or, migration milestones if you are moving kind of a large deployment on-premise into the cloud. We're never about the hard sell. We're always about what's best for the customer. And if we don't think the cloud's going to be a good fit for you or that it might disrupt your business as usual activity too much, then we will be honest and we will tell you. There's other ways of running Splunk in cloud, such as getting the on-premise license and deploying it obviously in your own cloud environment. So there are always different ways to skin a cat with Splunk, I suppose. And we've done this before. We actually deployed the first Splunk Cloud deployment in EMEA when cloud first came out about 6 years ago. And we've been a Splunk Cloud subject matter expert since the start, and we have multiple engineers who are subject matter experts in cloud. Now, here at Somerford, we're nothing without our people, whether it's our dedicated project management or our in-house professional services team, who are some of the best. And we have had glowing reviews from our existing customers and new ones when we start working with them about, how dedicated they are, and also, how well knowledgeable they are on not just the product, but the wider kind of requirements as well. We do have a dedicated in-house support desk as well for once you are up and running with Splunk, whether that's on-prem, cloud, or hybrid. And we actually resolve over 90% of all of support calls in-house. Last year, our annual figure was 97%. All of our engineers, whether they are pre-sales engineers, professional services engineers, business value consulting engineers such as Neil, or our account managers, they're all certified and trained up to the highest level that they can be in their field. And we make sure that everybody's certifications are always kind of in date and always up to the current best practices, because if anybody has worked with Splunk on this call, you'll know that things do move rather quickly there. We also do health checks annually to make sure that you're maximizing the value. And we really focus on, really delivering value out to our customers and not just kind of selling something and then kind of running off into the sunset. We're also really proudly part of the Armed Forces Covenant, if I put my teeth in, sorry. And we're also really proud to say that we do have government security cleared staff. So if you do need any security clearance to work on your particular site, don't worry, we've got project managers, account managers, and engineers who are able to do that. So why would you want to move to Splunk Cloud, and what actually is it? Well, Splunk Cloud is essentially the same as a on-premise instance of Splunk. It delivers all of the same great capabilities, but you just get them as a service. They really focus on service excellence and they have a 100% uptime SLA. Now, you can actually now choose where you would like your Splunk Cloud deployment to be, not only in availability zone, but also even platform. So if you would like to run it on AWS, that's great. If you want to run it on Azure, that's fine too, and Google Cloud. So you can have complete choice over where this SaaS product is actually deployed on. We also have fewer infrastructure requirements for you with Splunk Cloud, obviously because the search head tiers and the indexing tiers that store your data are all in the cloud, as well as the option to have a input data manager, which is essentially like a cloud-based heavy forwarder, which I'd really strongly recommend to anybody who's looking to move to cloud, who is doing any kind of network monitoring, anything that uses a REST API, or anything that uses a modular input. Definitely make sure that if you are currently in talks about your Splunk Cloud infrastructure, that you do have a suitable kind of identity input data manager in there. Sorry. Whenever you hear an I, normally it's identity. Now, we also are attested to, well, I always say more attestations than you can shake a stick at. SOC 2 Type 2, ISO 27001, HIPAA, FedRAMP, CSA Star. And this means, of course, that you can have complete certainty that we're handling your data in the correct way. There's also over 800 cloud-ready apps that you can install and use straight away. And all of those can be installed as self-service. If you have any custom apps that you're looking to migrate, then you can also have those vetted and migrated for you as well. Now, as I said, the Splunk Cloud service offering is completely up to you where you want to actually have it deployed in terms of availability zone and also platform. And as I said, we've got SOC 2 Type 2, ISO 27001 certifications here. If you're currently using enterprise security or IT service intelligence on premise, please don't worry, you can definitely bring that over to cloud. And we actually go ahead and give you a dedicated search head separate to the core implementation to make sure that you have a dedicated space for either your security or your service monitoring areas that still has all of the access to the rest of the data. So what does Splunk take care of in terms of the cloud deployment, and what do you have to do? Well, essentially, all you have to do is set up your data inputs and then start searching. We deal with all of the initial architecture and deployment, all of the system maintenance, all of the Splunk upgrades, all of the OS upgrades. We monitor the implementation to make sure it's working as it should be. And we also do operational security on the OS level, the platform, and also the engineers who would be working with you, Splunk Cloud Ops side. We back up your configuration for a week as standard, just in case anything does go wrong, and also 30 days worth of data, again, if something does go wrong for you. And we can also have specific administrators if you are dealing with any kind of data that's like PCI requirements or GDPR, then that way the engineers who are working with your infrastructure on the back end, if you ask them to do anything such as, make a configuration change or upgrade an app for you, then those guys will be actually certified and trained on that particular attestation or requirement. We also will coordinate our changes with you, so you have complete control over when your maintenance windows are. And the only kind of reason that we would ever need to do this is if we're upgrading the Splunk hardware itself, or if you'd ask for a change such as deploying an app or upgrading one. So what happens during our migration assessment? Well, really, first of all, we sit down and we really go through your business's cloud needs. As I said, we're never about the hard sell at Somerford. And if you don't, need cloud, or if it's not going to be suitable, we will tailor a platform for you, whether that's across one product, multiple products, to make sure that you get an implementation that's going to work for your everyday needs. Now, we review how you currently use the platform if you're already using Splunk, and we'll also highlight any problems that are going on in your current implementation. So that means we'll get the fine-tooth comb out and we'll go through all of those lines of configuration and make sure that they're up to best practice, and also that if there's any underlying errors or problems that are going on, that we make them kind of apparent to you, we make you aware, and also so that you can rectify them and we can advise you on rectifying them before we move that over into cloud, because we definitely don't want to move stuff that's maybe not the best in terms of quality. Now, we'll of course create a report of any changes that would need to be made to your system or any improvements. And also for any of you on the call who may be running an older Splunk version, such as 6 or 7, we know there's some of you out there, then we'll also highlight any upgrades that would need to be done as well, so that we can migrate the existing dashboards, reports, alerts, and data inputs over without any downtime. If there's going to be any changes to your business as usual, such as slightly different workflows or changes to existing processes, we'll again make sure that you're able to see those. And of course, we'll make sure that any applications that you use on a day-to-day are ready to migrate, they're cloud certified, and if they're not, we'll also help you through that vetting process to make sure that everything is ready to migrate come day one. Now, onto considerations, and this is where we kind of can show how open we are, because not every single customer is going to enjoy the restriction that is put in place because of Splunk Cloud. Now, some customers find this much quicker and easier than deploying on their own infrastructure, but again, that's not always the case for every business. Now, the reason why I say reduction in control is because you get no backend or command line access to Splunk Cloud. Now, this is because of their 100% uptime SLA. They have to make sure that what's being changed or edited on there could not make any changes to the uptime of the system. So what they do is they go ahead and manage those changes for you. You just submit a ticket for whenever you want something done, and then a certified architect will make that change for you and make sure that it's being made in the correct way. So for some customers, they see that as a downside because there may be a lead time to having the app installed. But for others, it can be so much quicker and easier. A customer that I was speaking to last week said to me, "Oh, well, that's much quicker because at the moment our lead time is a month because I'm so busy." And they only had one admin. Now, there is also some restrictions in terms of the applications that you can use. And again, that is due to the 100% uptime SLA. Now, we already know how to tweak apps to remove parts of them that may be the culprit of why they wouldn't be certified for cloud. And so that way we can make you a custom deployment of that app that can then be installed on your cloud instance. Of course, you'll get choice of availability zone as well as infrastructure as well. And what's kind of a benefit, but also can sometimes mean that you have to constantly make sure that you're up to date, is the fact that your Splunk infrastructure would always be on the latest and greatest version, and also your Splunk version as well. So that means you get all of the new features nice and quick, but also you may have to edit things or upgrade apps and things like that that all kind of rely on that OS version there. Now, again, if you are thinking, I get no backend access, how am I going to do my day-to-day things? A lot of things have been included into the UI now to let you do those, such as editing source types or any changes there. And if there's any configuration files that do need to be edited, those can be edited directly via CloudOps. You just need to raise a ticket again. Now, our assessment builds on the existing cloud migration app that is available on Splunkbase, again, completely free of charge. I'll go ahead and put this link to the app in the chat of the webinar, just in case you want to go and download it today. It will give you a health check of your current instance and also put out any issues that there might be with your deployment in terms of moving to cloud. Now, what we add on to this is, of course, the tailored reports of how you're using the infrastructure, and make sure that you're aware of any kind of dependencies or any changes that there might be, not just at the Splunk side, but obviously any other ways that you're sending data, etc. So over to Neil to discuss the added value of Splunk Cloud.
Thanks, Grace. Can you just go on to the next slide, please? So building on what Grace has just covered, what added value can you actually expect to get from Splunk Cloud? So as the slide here suggests, there are a number, but some of the standouts for me are the new features are uploaded to Splunk Cloud more often, so every 4 to 5 weeks, and this compares to twice a year for new customer updates for customer managed Splunk instances. And it's also worth noting that not all features delivered in Splunk Cloud will also be available to on-prem or bring your own license customers. And should you wish to explore this further, we can find out from Splunk what these differences in features might be. Next slide, please, Grace. So another big advantage with Splunk Cloud is the fact that the administration burden of managing much of the Splunk instance is removed. So managing an on-prem or bring your own license Splunk instance involves 12 ongoing administration tasks. With Splunk Cloud, 8 of these admin tasks are actually done for you, such as patches and upgrades, monitoring of the deployments and health checks. And this can save a huge amount of time that isn't necessarily needed to be spent on managing the Splunk, and potentially there could be less of a training burden for you and your company. Next slide, please, Grace. So as we've seen from the last few slides alone, Splunk Cloud and self-managed Splunk software are not one and the same thing. As the table here shows, with on-premise or bring your own license, you're responsible for much of the maintenance, and be that the installation or the setup, or the continuing maintenance of the deployment, including like health checks and upgrades. The alternative could be Splunk Cloud, but where Splunk manages the architecture and looks after much of the platform for you. I think of note, you do still need to manage the forwarders and send data to Splunk. So you do still need some trained personnel, but the administration costs are reduced greatly. And for some companies, you will still prefer greater control of your own environment. And so your own license on AWS, Google, Azure, or other public or private cloud may still be the preferred option for you. And as Grace, you mentioned earlier, we can work with you to find the right fit for your needs, because one size definitely doesn't fit all when it comes to Splunk, bring your own license or Splunk Cloud. Next slide, please. So in terms of total cost of ownership, it's not quite as simple as a straightforward comparison between on-premise or bring your own license against Splunk Cloud. There are different factors that should be considered, such as the license and maintenance of the software, servers and storage. And it may be that after working through the costs and benefits with you, that Splunk Cloud could offer a lower total cost of ownership and faster return on investment when all features have actually been considered. Again, the Somerford team can work through this with you to find the best options for you and for your specific requirements. Next slide, please, Grace. So on the left-hand side here now, this is generally where we tend to look at the business value consulting side of things, and this is how an additional factor that we can bring in from a Somerford perspective, if you like, to assist you on your Splunk or be it other software journey. So on the left-hand side, this tends to be where customers ask me for help. So whether it be deliver cost savings, simplify operations, standardization, or tool consolidation, to mention a few, basically to get the most value that they can from the software products that they're using. In terms of the Splunk Cloud assessment, particularly for this webinar, the one tool that I can use is what's called the Cloud Value Calculator. And this helps understand the cost differentiators between cloud versus your on-prem deployment or bring your own license. I also have something called a prescriptive value path workshop that I can run for you and your team, which helps you understand your KPIs, what data sources you may be bringing in, and just really understanding what help you to map out where you are now in your current Splunk journey and where you maybe wanting to get to in terms of automation. I also have a data source assessment workshop that I can run through with you, which explains the amount of data that you're generating per day, any use cases where it maybe could be used, and just basically allowing you to understand where the data could be reused across your organization. So you're not just having to pay for the data once and it being used in security, for example. You're paying for the data once, but it's actually being used to assist your whole enterprise. And then the last one is the interactive value assessment, which again, I can work with yourselves or your team to actually understand what value you're getting from your Splunk instance, what your return on investment may be, and also just helping you to write and develop any business cases that you may need to put forward to your budgetary team, just so you can explain why you do need this software and the sort of value it could bring. and all of that basically to help with achieve your priorities and objectives essentially. Next slide, please, Grace. So in terms of Somerford transaction methods, we do have a number of transaction methods which we can use to transact. Some are on the slide here, such as AWS Marketplace, also through Arrow, and also via Crown Commercial Services for our government customers. It's worth noting that whilst some are some of our main transaction methods, we are a member of a number of organisations which allow us to use lots of other different frameworks and transaction methods as well. So whatever works best for you, we can normally tend to work around, if you like. And all you need to do is ask us, and we will find the right framework or transaction method that works for you. Next slide, please, Grace. And then, so to summarise, can we just go back one, please? Thanks. So to summarise, the cloud value assessment is a no-cost assessment, and the only cost to yourselves is actually time. Splunk Cloud is not always the best fit, but our engineers can help you to understand the benefits and the risks that you will receive, and you will get a tailored report to your actual requirements at the end of the assessment. And again, no cost. We discussed the added value in terms of features and updates and the reduced administration burden with cloud. And then I covered off the business value and consulting function, and that we have different transaction methods that can be used to meet your needs. I think above all, I think the biggest thing is that we've done this before. The team do know what they're doing, and we were actually the first team in Europe to actually implement a Splunk Cloud instance. So any hiccups or anything that was needed to be resolved, most of the team have come across that before, and they're well skilled in figuring out what you actually need.
Of course, if anybody on the webinar today does have any questions, please feel free to reach out to your account manager, or if you're not a current customer of Somerford and you want to learn more, info@somerfordassociates.com, and we will get your query through to the right person. I just want to thank everyone for your time today. I hope that you've learned a little bit more about Splunk Cloud as a platform, and also the ways in which that we can help you migrate and create your cloud-first strategy. And I also want to take the time to thank Neil for his time on this webinar today as well. And I hope that everybody here has a wonderful rest of their day and a great week. Stay safe and happy Splunking.